All right. All right, everybody. Welcome to another Facebook Live stream event with me, Dr. Sonia. I am the owner and founder of Covenant Pediatric Wellness Center and Covenant Pediatrics in Jefferson City. And I'm terribly excited to have my monthly Facebook Live be with Hilary Dorr. Welcome, Hilary. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi.
So tell us about yourself and about your family.
Okay, well, I am a homeschool mom. We have 6 kids. The ages range from the oldest is 18 down to 4. And I have 3 boys and 3 girls. And we live on a smaller farm outside Ashland, Missouri.
All right. So we're here really to talk mostly about Jameson today, your 4-year-old. So tell us about him and just sort of how things started early on with him and how you knew things weren't coming around kind of the way you were hoping.
Okay. Well, everything was fine with his birth and all of that. And then when he was 9 months old, something happened and I didn't know what, and he was non-responsive. And so I threw him in the car and I took him to the hospital. And then when I got him to the hospital, he was fine. So I didn't even go in because then he was responsive. He was smiling at me. He was looking at me. And I was like, well, something's weird. I don't know what that was. But then we just went home and went on with life, right? And then about 3 weeks later, he had his first set of seizures. And so I knew what seizures were because my another daughter had had a few seizures when she was younger also. And so I knew what they were and I knew what they looked like, but we did went ahead and go to the ER and they confirmed, right? Yes, these are grand mal seizures. And they admitted him because he was so young. He was 9 months old, about 10 months old, I think at the time. And he had, I think, 4 in a short amount of time. And so they admitted him and then did all the, appropriate testing for that.
Okay. And so they diagnosed him with grand mal seizures.
Yeah.
And did they put him on medication?
Well, that's a funny story because they immediately wanted to put him on Keppra just because that's just what they do. And I did not want that. And so I denied that medication, which was actually really, really hard because they pushed really, really hard for that. And every neurology appointment from then on pushed really, really hard for medication.
And what was it about the medication that just didn't feel right to you?
Well, it didn't feel right because 1, he was so little, and 2, I had some experience. We did not medicate my other daughter either. She only ever had 4 in her whole life, and we treated alternatively, and it seemed to be mild. It just never happened again, and that was fine. And I was hopeful that that was what would happen this time, but it did not because he had hundreds of seizures. But what didn't sit right with the medication was I knew that once you put them on, you can't just take them off. It's like a 12-week wean. And I also knew that if you put them on and that one medication doesn't work, then they try another on top of that one. And then if that doesn't work, they try another on top of that one. And so I was like, I want to try anything else before we try that. And one of the stats that I had read when I was researching the medication this time was that it only works 40% of the time anyway. So even if they try that first med, then it 60% chance it may not help. So then they add another one, 60% chance that one may not help, right? And then so that was what didn't sit right. And he was so little and I just knew it couldn't be good for his body. And I wanted to find the root cause, not just cover it up and stop his brain activity from working.
So what sorts of behaviors did you also notice with him?
Yeah. So he would have the grand mal seizures, which were very easy to identify, right? Because, obviously it's a seizure. And he also had tics. And I didn't know what they were at the time, but when it all started, I didn't know what they were, but his head would go just not constantly, but hundreds a day. Very regularly would he do that. And then he had some squinty things with his eyes. His eyes would just blink oddly, I guess you would say. And I'd be like, buddy, I mean, he's too little to know, but what's wrong with your eyes? And he's like blinking them at me really weird. So little, I guess they're called ticks, or that's what I would call them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what put you on the path to figuring out the connection with food?
Okay, I was desperate. That's desperate, right? Like all you parents out there know, like you just get desperate.
Yeah.
And I was looking for anything that would help me. And I had gone to, at this point, like 3 different neurologists to try to find a way for someone to help me in a different way, right? Not just give them the medicine. And so as I was, Dr. Google, all of this stuff, as I was Googling all this stuff, I knew that like food, I mean, it could play a part, right? And even if I changed his diet, it wasn't going to hurt him. And that's, I think, what, like, I was desperate, willing to try anything. I didn't care how crazy it sounded. And actually, what I did was not crazy. It seems crazy with the way that today's food is. And it was hard, right? But it was not crazy because what I switched him to just meat, fruit, and vegetables. Like, that's it for probably like 6 months, and then added in nuts and beans, and I actually meat, fruit, vegetables, and eggs. And then I added in nuts, beans, coconut, corn, because that was on his list. That it wasn't on any bad list for him. But so, and I was really, really strict with that, and like took his food everywhere, and he ate better than any of my other kids because I was desperate.
And what sort of changes did you see just with diet change?
So immediately, just with diet change. So he was having, he would go 2 to 3 weeks seizure free, and then he would have 12 to 20 seizures in a 4 to 5 day span. And then he'd go 2 to 3 weeks without seizures, and then he'd have 12 to 20 again in that 4 to 5 day span. And it was just like this cycle. So with just food alone, that very first cycle, we went down to 5 seizures. And I thought, what? Is this a fluke? Can this really be working? Like, I don't know if it's working or not, but I'm still desperate. So I'm going to keep doing it. And then the next cycle of his 2 to 3 week cycle, it went down to 1 seizure. And then that's where you came in. So you came in right at that point.
And so how did you find me?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So again, I had Googled everything and everybody, and I like looked up a functional chiropractor, functional doctor, neurology chiropractor. I mean, you just enter all of these words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's how I found you. And the diet that I was doing was something that was close to the READ diet, which is a diet for autistic kids. And I thought to myself, well, like at this time he doesn't have autism. But I know that seizures are brain related and autism is brain related, and you were more focused on that. And that's why I came to you, and that's how I found you.
And he was just a little guy. What was he? Maybe 18 months?
Well, when I came to you, I think he was probably like 14
months.
or something.
Yeah. And so I remember meeting him for the first time, and the tics that you talked about, I remember those. The way he would move his head, and he would raise his arm over his head.
He did. Yes.
And he would just sort of wander around fairly disconnected from most anybody. He was kind of doing his own thing. He was really happy, just sort of being self-focused. And so eventually we did some testing. So let's talk about what tests we did and what we found.
Okay. Well, you may be better at explaining this, but we did an organic acid test, right? And we did a food sensitivity test.
Yep.
And we did a stool test. And I think that was it, right?
I think that's right.
Yes. And so for all you moms out there trying to get a stool test out of a 14 to 18-month-old, like, I hear ya. But yeah. And so those showed lots and lots of things that Dr. Sonia was able to read on the tests and help us with. And when she showed me those tests, I was like, I felt like they were really bad. And I was like, this cannot be his test. Like, I think it's mixed up. It cannot be his.
Yeah.
But it was.
Well, and I remember, when you evaluate kids and you do a lot of testing, at least me, I'm in my mind thinking, okay, I'm probably going to find A, B, and C, X, Y, and Z on this test. And I was right about that. I just sort of underestimated because I remember looking at his final test results going, "Oh my gosh, this is some of the worst values I've seen."
Right.
Especially in a kid who was so well fed
Right.
and, so like cuz you're not super connected to screens, like you're outside, you're on a farm, like you
Right.
guys live a really healthy lifestyle, super clean food. And I was like, this is unreal, the test results. And really what we found is exactly what I say over and over in my webinars and in the talks that I give. He was the classic presentation of a biomed kid. So he had really, really severe deficiencies despite eating well, right? And that's something we see all the time. He had profound mitochondrial dysfunction. So his Krebs cycle, his ability to make energy inside the cell was almost non-existent. Like he was a kid running on fumes big time.
Mm-hmm.
He had a lot of gut stuff, just a lot of, impaired detox pathways, all of that. And so we got to work then, right? And
Yeah.
what did we do together?
Well, you gave him some supplements. And I mean, I remember all of those. You want me to say those
It's
or?
totally up to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, she had him on a biocidin. She had him on probiotic. She had him on oxalate scavenger, mitocore, and I think that was it in the beginning. And then we've since added an ammonia scavenger, but based on that was like a retest results or whatever from then.
Yeah. So his oxalate levels were just so high. So
Mm-hmm.
for those who don't understand oxalates, you can go to my website, The Why Matters, and you can read about it and you can watch webinars about it. But basically, they're crystals that would give you or I a kidney stone. But for kids, a lot of times when they have high intestinal yeast, they have high oxalates, and the crystals can cause pain in their legs, their genital area, their eyes. And so, who knows how much of his behavior was
Mm-hmm.
potentially pain related.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what sorts of changes did you see just based on diet and supplements?
Well, so at that time, like seizure activity. So then when when we saw her and did the testing and got the supplements started, I don't remember the exact timing of that, like where we were in those cycles. But so we went from, 12 to 20 down to 5, down to 1. And instead of 2 to 3 weeks with the supplements, then we went to, it was like out to 31 days and just seizures, right? Like, and then just seizures. And then we went to 43 days, I think. And then it went to 60 some days. And then it just kept getting longer and longer, the period between. Um, he still had tics for a long time. I was trying to look back at my notes to see how long that was, but he did still have tics for a long, long time, although they lessened. And then, so now we are past 2 years seizure free. Like we are, Dr. Sonia, it's like, it's 2 years and 3 months that he's seizure free, and he's just taking supplements and food. And I'm still really strict on his diet, but he's just doing supplements and food and living his best life. And he doesn't have seizures and he doesn't have tics, and his behavior, like, also, I didn't mention this, but like you had said it a little bit. He was kind of unaware of his surroundings. I mean, he knew what was going on and stuff, and he would respond to his name and he would make eye contact, but he didn't care that I was his mom or that like he had other brothers and sisters that cared about him. He would play with them, but there wasn't a connection at all, at all. And so that started happening. And so lots of things just kind of gradually changed. But the big one was like that you can pinpoint is the seizures. Because, right, that's something that you can say this was happening and now it's not.
What other therapies and services did you get here?
Yeah, so we went to Jackie for craniosacral therapy. We did chiropractic care with you,
Mhm.
and we had talked about the hyperbaric oxygen, but we never ended up doing that. And
Yeah.
I think that was it. But we did do craniosacral for probably 6 to 8 to 9 months.
Yeah.
It was a good period of time.
Yeah. And that brought some changes for him too in the long run.
Yeah, it did. And that was one of those things that you can't really like pinpoint, but you know it's helping, so you keep going back. You can't
Yeah.
say, "Oh, he was doing this and now he's not," or "He was not doing this and now he is," but you could see a gradual getting better of symptoms, although you couldn't like it wasn't a something that you could just put your finger on.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I remember him just being a little guy
Yeah,
and, being sort of disconnected and sort of doing his own thing. And then you brought him with a sibling.
yeah.
The appointment wasn't for him, it was for his
Mhm.
sister. And I remember walking in the room being absolutely flabbergasted that this was the same child.
Right.
Like almost brought to tears and had to confirm with you, this is Jameson, like,
Right.
because he's playing and he's drawing and he's talking and he's interacting and he's connected.
Mhm.
Literally could not see any evidence of a previous delay at all.
Right.
And then you brought him again a few weeks later, and it was, like, even more magnified, like, I walk in the room, and there he is, and he's like, "Oh," "Talk, talk, talk," and just
Mhm.
interacting and was social, and, my goal for little ones is if I do my job well, my goal is that they're gonna be indistinguishable by kindergarten,
Yeah.
and oh my gosh,
Right.
like, I to look at this boy,
Mhm.
it absolutely blows my mind.
Right. It blows my mind. It blows my mind too because I have met new friends in the last, few years or whatever. They have no idea. They have no idea and they think he's normal.
Mm.
And he is, right?
Mhm.
And they're like, "Oh, I had no idea, that it was like that or whatever." And sometimes I get a little crazy and I'm a little overprotective and all that stuff. And I explain it to him. They're like, "Oh, okay, that's why. That's why."
So you still have him on supplements.
Yes.
Mhm. We're talking about doing, repeat some testing, right, just to kinda see where we still have to work. Do
Right.
you see any deficits in him at all?
So, the thing that I see that may not be age appropriate at this time is his lack of ability to. I mean, I kind of feel like he lost a year and a half of his life, so he kind
Mm.
of sometimes acts like a 2-year-old because he's 4.
Yeah.
Right. So in those temper tantrums or in those understanding that like, no, you can't have this right now, or
Mm.
those kind of things. That's the only thing. Like if you compare him to a, you know, everyday run of the mill
Mm.
4-year-old, that is the one thing. Like, and that's the only thing. As far as language, we didn't really mention it, but he didn't say mama. He didn't say any of his siblings' names. He didn't talk really for a long, long time. I think the craniosacral therapy actually, I don't know if it's supposed to have something to do with that, but like I feel like that helped that part of it. Um, but yeah, now he talks all the time, and so that's like the only thing.
And are you still pretty strict with his diet?
Yeah, I'm I'm really strict actually, but he has had gluten, he has had dairy, he has had non-organic food, um he has had sugar, right? He's had all these things with no symptoms, none. Like he got into a siblings Starburst pile and ate 3 because we found the wrappers, and like I couldn't even tell. Like days later, I wasn't like, "Oh man, he was a mess 3 days ago," or "Oh, he, had ticks," or "Oh, he," like I couldn't even tell. I feel like he's like, I don't wanna say healed, but, like, healing so much. He's healing so much that he can eat 3 Starbursts and it won't,
Yeah.
melt down or cause him to do anything because the reason I say this is, like, I'm sure, like I can hear some of my family members saying, "Oh, 3 Starburst won't, what's 3 Starburst going to do or whatever." But I was really, really strict like on his diet, and I thought, "Oh, let's try rice." And I had talked to you about it, and you said, "Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, rice is a pretty good one to try. Let's try rice." And he had tics immediately, like within 20 minutes, and he had not had any. And so I was like, "Ooh, wait, food still matters a lot,
Yeah.
right?" And so, yeah, so now, like if we go to a church potluck or if we go to a restaurant, mostly I still take his food mostly.
Mhm.
But like now I let him eat. I mean, I let him eat like the green beans and the fruits and when
Yeah.
before, like I was providing everything. So I knew it didn't come out of a can. I knew it didn't have any preservatives on it. I knew, all of these things. But now I'm like, he can handle if the fruit came out of a can and it's got,
Mhm.
citric acid in it or whatever. But we don't do any of that at home. It's only when we're out. So I see a time, though, I really see a time when we don't have to do this. And we can make good decisions, but we don't have to be so strict.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, gosh, it what do you say to when you read on social media or you hear people say complex kids with whatever diagnosis can't recover? What do
Yeah.
you say?
I think I think that people are can I say this? I don't know. I think people are brainwashed and I was too, and I have no idea why I was strong enough to say no to the meds and try something different. Like I don't know why, but I did, and I'm so thankful because it's our culture, and we just go along with our food is not the problem.
Right.
And I think our food, I mean, probably what I ate when I was pregnant was, I mean, I'm sure that had something to do with how he grew and how his body grew and what worked and what didn't work. And you just fall into the trap of what's easy. But I'm like, the food makes a huge difference. And with food and the right testing, I think kids can recover. Maybe not completely, right, but they can heal a lot. And that's what I'm seeing.
So I was always in awe of you when I know that you've got 5 other kids and a husband and a house and a kid having seizures that's just eating you alive with
Right,
worry.
right,
But you managed all the food and all the like, you came with records, like, he ate this on this day, and this is
right,
like, it
right.
you were like an absolute warrior on a mission, and I my son had to be gluten and egg and dairy free for a long time, and I thought I was gonna go bananas, like, how did you have the bandwidth or the strength or the tenacity to do that?
Well, that's a really good question because I look back now and say, "Man, I was crazy. How did I do that?" And I'm still doing it, right? But like the pressure's less,
Yeah.
right? Because, we're not out of the woods, but we're getting out of the woods, right? And I think ever I don't want to say it's a personality thing because I want to encourage anybody that they can do it, but I also want you to know, like, I mean, you have to decide. You can't let someone else decide for you, and if you want to follow an alternative path or make different choices, do it. And you have to stick with it, and you can't
Mhm.
just float with the wind because it will, like, you'll be all over the place, which I was, right, when I was trying to figure all this stuff out, like desperate, doing anything, trying anything, right? I One, I think it's personality, and two, I think I just, like you said, it just didn't sit right. I knew there had to be
Mhm.
something else. There had to be something wrong with him to have so many seizures and have so many tics and have so much problems. Not just, I mean, like, there had to be something in the core, like something wrong that we could fix, or at
Yeah.
least we could figure it out.
So, I know when my kids were littler and I was a little militant about a lot of things, people people thought I was crazy.
Yes. Hmm.
So did you get a lot of pushback from doctors, from friends, from family about, "You're such a kook, like, this is crazy. What are you doing? You're gonna hurt your kid." Like,
Hmm.
did you get a lot of that?
I totally got that from the doctors, the neurologists especially. I mean, I'll tell the story really quickly, but like they weren't going to let me leave the hospital without a prescription. And I kept saying no, and I kept saying no, and I kept saying no. And they weren't going to let me leave. And the doctor came in, he sent everybody else out of the room. He sat down right next to me, face to face, and he said he was trying to be really nice to me, and he told me all the things. And then when I kept saying no, then he turned like mean and was saying like, this is very dangerous to my kid. I'm hurting my kid's life. I'm taking that into jeopardy. He could die because, I mean, he could, right? And but then I had a nurse at the hospital friend, one of my good friends was a nurse. I said, do I have to take this? Does he get in trouble if I don't take it? And he has to sign a form that he did his due diligence and gave the prescription. And so that's why he was pushing so hard. So my friend said, just take it, throw it in the trash on your way out. And that's what I did, right? And then, I mean, I was like shaking, right? And feeling like, did I do the right thing? Did I do the right thing? I don't know. And then as it took a while for me to figure out the food, or like I said, I was desperate, trying anything, trying everything. And so there was probably 5 to 6 months of him just having lots of seizures with no results and no reason why. And so during that time, my family was really supportive, except for like my mom or my dad at one point has said like, don't you think it's time you look at some medicine? Right. And I'm like, I don't know. I mean, anybody who's dealt with this just knows how you just question all of your choices, all of your decisions. It's your kid's life at stake, right? But very quickly after that is when I tried the diet and it started to work. So I was able to have a reprieve when that started working. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, so if you were talking to a mom who was in your shoes, they have a complex kid, maybe it's seizures, maybe it's behavior, maybe it's who knows what else, any kind of struggle, problem with their child. Now that you're seasoned at this and, you've been through it, what would you tell them?
I would tell them, I think a lot of times people try a diet and they give it 3 months and maybe they don't see results, or maybe it's not the right diet. But I think like I had to do it for, I mean, a year and a half before we saw like not complete, because we still had seizures at that time, but I mean, I could see he was healing, right? But I guess what I would say is don't give up. And even if that one diet is not the right one, find something else. If this one supplement is not the right one, find something else, right? If this one test didn't show enough, find a different test, or, just keep going. And I know you're desperate. And I know how hard it is. And I know how hard it is to keep going. But like, I guess I just want to tell people you're not alone either. Because I think that's just the thing, like, as the mom typically, and sometimes dads are involved and that's great. But, the mom is often the one making all the medical decisions, talking with all the doctors, going to all the appointments and stuff. And it's heavy. And so 1, you're not alone. 2, keep going. That's what I would say.
And always think about there's a root cause. Kids don't just, there are no bad kids, right? There are no purposeless behaviors. There's always a reason underlying it. And so let's look at what could be metabolic first. Let's look for nutrient deficiencies and Krebs cycle abnormalities and low cholesterol and low vitamin D, right? Why wouldn't we look at that first?
Right. And I love that you say that, Dr. Sonia. There are no bad kids. Like every single behavior has a reason, even the ones that aren't complex, right?
Right.
There's no bad kids. Why are they acting like this? Well, something is causing them to, right? And so, yeah, but I love that you say that. And I love that that's how you run your practice.
Well, the practice is the way it is because of my own kid and
Right.
because of, all the nonsense that we had to go through with him. And so, I just can't help but, and I've said this to you before, what if you hadn't done that Google search that day and
Right.
ran into us?
Right.
Like, where would Jameson be? And I'm not trying to take credit because
No.
that's not it. I'm an instrument, right?
Mhm.
And what if you hadn't? Like, where would he be? Because it just blows my mind every time I see him, and I almost can't, like, look at him because I get so overwhelmed with, I'm just so happy we could help this kid.
Right. He was running around this morning. Like, I often also get choked up because I'm like, well, I feel like, I mean, he would be, I don't know if the seizure meds would have worked, right? Like, you don't know, but I feel like he would have been a zombie. He wouldn't have known who we were. He would have been in his own world. Yeah. I mean, he was running around this morning saying, Ella, which is a sibling, Ella, Ella, come hide with me. Ella, come hide. Let's hide. And then just laughing hysterically and running and looking back, like totally just playing. And I was just overwhelmed with, like, he's growing and healing and normal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for trusting me to be part of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I want to say, I remember coming to you, and I remember you saw the test and you didn't tell me how bad it was. I thought it was bad, but you didn't tell me how bad it was. You were totally confident, and I'm going, holy crap, this is awful. And you said, the thing about this test is, Hilary, we can fix everything on this test. If I know what it is, we can work on it. We can fix it. And I was like, okay, like, I guess that's the best we've got, because I was wanting you to say, we'll do this, this, and this, and he'll be healed, right? But what you said was something even better. Like, I know how to do this. It's going to take a while. We're going to work through the problems, right? Like, it, for me to leave there being able to, like, trust you in this, when I had gone to all those neurologists who were not able to help me in the way that I wanted, right? Like, they were doing their thing, but was so encouraging. I remember coming home and telling Chris, like, okay, here's the test, right? Here's what we're going to do. And yeah, so thank you.
Wow.
I know you don't take credit, but I give you a lot of credit.
Well, I appreciate it, and I just love being part of your story, and I can't wait whenever he has his homeschool graduation, you call me and say, "Come on over. We're gonna watch him walk." So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
so good. Any last thoughts or comments?
I think that if you're, like, what I would say is, if you're thinking about, like, I know it's expensive to get care in these more natural ways, right? Because your insurance doesn't cover it. And there's all this testing that needs to be done. And so from my perspective, like, the last thing, like, I tell people this all the time, like, this is priceless. Like, what we got with him is priceless. And, like, I mean, was it more than it would have been if we would have went to, the just get the prescription route or whatever? Like, it was, and it was harder. But I guess you pick your hard so that you can maybe get a different result in the end. So that's what I would tell people. Like, it is worth it. It is worth all the taking the food to every single meal for the next 5 years, because that's what I'm still doing. Right. And I mean, but it's worth it. So I want to tell people that, like, don't give up.
That's why we don't give up, because we can
Right.
have a story like Jameson's.
Right. Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much for sharing Jameson's story and just sharing that there is hope for complex kids, that it's not just genetic, it's not, oh, you got bad luck,
Right.
right? There's
Right.
always a reason, there's always a root cause. We can find it, we can address it, and you don't give up on your kid.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well, thank you again.
Yeah.
And I wish you guys the best of luck. I can't wait to see you here in the clinic tomorrow, and
Okay.
we'll see what our next steps are for your sweet boy.
Okay. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome. Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.